Hello, Jeroen. Hello, Liesbeth. Nice to see you again. We've had a quick of a prep call last night, and we've made the mistake of actually going through everything in advance. So we've missed to actually recording the prep session, which would have been perfect. And now we have to do it again. So Friday afternoon, welcome everybody. And to my two friends, Liesbeth and Jeroen, I have a surprise for you guys. Remember the time when you visited me in Nuremberg about 1.5 years ago? We've had a nice evening out at the castle, and we've had a special beer. And since I've seen you guys drink beer on your first 3 episodes of the podcast, I thought I'd bring you one of my local surprises, which, by the way, I'm going to be having in a second. I just need to open the beer, and then I'll pour some. Okay?
Nice, man.
That sounds good. Cheers.
Cheers, Ollie. Cheers. All right. So
let's jump in then, I guess, huh?
Yeah, cool. So I have a beer also here. The Howling Wolf. It's from Two Chefs Brewing. It's a beer from Amsterdam. I think in your youth, right, Ollie, your early days, you came very often, right, in Amsterdam as well?
Yes, I've worked for Siemens about 20 or 25 years ago, and I had a project with a customer in the north of Belgium. So I got to learn about the Belgian joy of beer and how they basically break the beer by putting dye and color into it. And, in Germany, we have the purity law. But let's have a drink. And because I lived in Belgium, I traveled to the surrounding countries rather often. Cheers.
Nice. Cheers.
Cheers.
And Liesbeth, what are you having?
Oh, you're having
I thought, let me bring a glass of champagne. And I have a reason for that. So I'm having a rosé champagne over here. And the reason why I'm having it is because, I always make the joke, even in our history together, when we had strategy meetings saying we should drink, not eating our own dog food, but drinking our own champagne. So for good old sakes, I would say, let us drink here my own champagne and have a good conversation.
Yeah, cheers.
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 Welcome to Serving Your Market as Kings or Queens. If you are looking for an interesting commercial, marketing, and sales podcast that is bold, unfiltered, unconventional, and authentic, you are at the right place. Curious how to play the game better and smarter? We will share how we crack the code to hyper growth for our customers. We will invite amazing people. We will share our experience, the first attempts in learning, cracking the code, and finally the results. And last but not least, we will give you food for thought. Now, let's get started.
Right. So welcome, Ollie. Yeah, everybody. So we welcome Oliver Kuegow today. And I think everybody more or less calls you Ollie. So
yes,
he's a good friend of ours to our podcast. So Ollie is a business owner and an innovative entrepreneur. He sold a couple of years ago one of his companies, an IT service provider, to the company we actually worked together with Ollie for a couple of years, me and Liesbeth. So great times. The moment we started working together, it was all about making impact and fun on a more corporate group level, but definitely also in the German market. Ollie's a great guy. He has a passion for technology, new commercial business models, and last but not least, green energy. And he's always leading with a people-centric mindset. So that's what I truly appreciate about you, Ollie. So welcome again. And for everybody, for the listeners, the promise of this podcast, right? So today it will all be about the secrets of multiplying the metric that matters most, and that's customer lifetime value. So the big question is reaching a 10 times higher customer lifetime value actually a dream? Or can you truly make that a reality? So, I would like to kick off the conversation from here. So let me briefly get a little bit of an introduction into the topic, right? I think in the subscription economy, where we are all in at currently at this moment, I think for a couple of years now already, We see that it's currently more and more actually all about the relationship building, right, and putting people in the center. So I think that's a very important aspect. You see a lot of organizations moving away from the transactional model, and truly see and understand that it's to really deliver most value to your customers. It's all about building relationships. So actually, in line more or less with that, we see that one metric that matters most is customer lifetime value.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ollie, what is this metric, and why does it matter actually most, and why do so many CEOs actually deeply care about this metric?
Yeah, so customer lifetime value is one of the two, by the way, most important metrics that we see in subscription business that is mainly looked at. Not just from the business owner's perspective, of course, also from investor's perspective. Okay. The other metric, which is very important, is the customer acquisition cost. So you have a subscription service. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, you came up with the idea to create a Salesforce. Okay, Salesforce is a special case and a very good example, because they were initial drivers behind converting the market from a buy once software mindset to a subscription mindset. And one of their first logos was this kind of a stop sign that says no software. Okay, so no installation. They were pitching all the advantages that you usually have as a customer when you subscribe to a service. Okay, so we're not just talking about, do I rent a virtual machine, or just the software part. This what we're about to discuss, I guess, at least we discussed it last night already, is that the world is turning into a subscription-based economy. We don't buy CDs. We subscribe to Spotify. We don't buy movies. We just watch Netflix and so on. And that's what is happening. We don't own things anymore. We rent them, and we've seen that a while ago in other areas of business as well, like. About, I would say, at least here in Germany, about 25 to 30 years ago, the mindset changed when it came to company cars. It was like a prestige thing to be able to afford to buy your company car in cash as a company.
Okay.
But it doesn't make any sense from the perspective of looking at your balance sheet. You artificially inflate your balance sheet. You have too many assets on it, and then people started to change the mindset into more renting a car, leasing a company car, and so on. So the world is changing, and I think for most parts it has already changed. Okay, and the effect we've seen, just a funny example that I've read about the other day. One of the really sticking examples for me was about 4 or 5 weeks ago. We've passed an interesting point when it comes to metrics, and that point is that was the first time that the old vinyl records outsold compact discs. That means people are now buying more vinyl in the year 2021 than they are buying compact discs. And that is not because of an increase in sales of vinyl records. It's because of a decline in CDs, CD-ROMs, and so on. That means everybody has jumped ship from buying CDs because they subscribe to Spotify, Apple Music, and whatnot, other kinds of services all might exist on this planet. But the sales of vinyl has always stuck and was constant. And
Exactly.
it's a collector's object, it's a lover's object, nostalgia, and other emotions come into play. So I think the world has turned into a subscription economy for most parts, so that a transition is completed, and now companies from other industries where it might not be as obvious on how to turn a classic transactional kind of business into a subscription business, those people are starting to look at it. And that's, by the way, and I know we will get to that question later, that is something that brought us back together, Jeroen, a few weeks ago when we discussed this difficult business case that you wanted my advice on. Okay, there was this company just trading their time for money and not having any leverage in their business, and then you found a competitor who actually pretended to have a subscription business. Getting back to the question of the customer lifetime value, is it the most important metric? It's one of the two most important ones. The CAC, the customer acquisition cost, is the other one. What does customer lifetime value mean? You basically have a subscription business. You charge for a service. Let's say, for instance, your Netflix, and you charge $5 a month. And you have a customer stickiness rate, a retention rate of, let's say, 12 months. Okay, and then there's customer churn. They will leave you, they will jump ship, and they're not going to subscribe to your service anymore. So you have 12 months of lifetime, and the value of this lifetime is the monthly subscription fee, which is the €5 in this example, which would lead up to a customer lifetime value of 60. Okay, and I'm trying to contradict you a little bit, because just increasing this metric does not actually, it's not the holy grail. It doesn't solve all the problems you might have as a subscription business owner. The other metric comes into play, and you have to look at those metrics in relation to each other. The other metrics is the CAC, the customer acquisition cost, meaning how much does it cost to convince a customer to sign up to your service, okay? And if you now spend, let's say, €30 on marketing efforts in order to lure in the customer and get him to subscribe to the service, and you get €60 as a customer lifetime value out of it, good job, you've doubled your money, okay? And just multiplying the lifetime value by 10 doesn't help you any if you actually need to spend not €30, but €500 in order to get to the last customer with the pushiest marketing you ever can think about, okay? So I think looking at those two values as a ratio is a smart thing. And of course, the lifetime of the customer, the lifetime value always has to be higher than the acquisition cost, obviously. Otherwise, you'd be losing money, which some subscription business intentionally do, by the way, just in order to get to a certain critical mass when it comes to their customer base, okay? So is it realistic to increase this value tenfold? Maybe, but always look at the other metric as well, okay? There are
good point, Ollie, and I think some of the some of the topic points, right, we will probably discuss later will influence that, right? So, for example, your acquisition cost can be significantly lower if you make sure that you focus on your ideal customers, right?
Yes.
And also, if you have multiple revenue streams, that could mean also that you could increase the lifetime value, I think, right? Because if you have multiple offerings to offer, right? A customer could sign up for Netflix is maybe not the right example, but if you are another company, right, with a subscription and you could upsell, right? Then that would mean you could increase the lifetime value easier.
Yes, and there is other, I would just say there are tricks or other ways to increase the customer lifetime value. A rather common thing that we see these days is that subscription businesses, if they meet one criteria, they can apply a trick, and the trick they apply is they assume or they know that the production cost, the marginal cost to supply a service to another customer is zero. Okay, like do we need to upgrade infrastructure? Do we have any investments? Do we need to employ more people? No, because a customer in a subscription software mainly is just another record in the database. So there is no additional cost for us to serve this customer. Okay, and if that assumption is true, the companies who analyze those metrics, like the customer lifetime value, what they just do is they take the lifetime value, the metric they measured, that they calculated, and for double or triple that price, they sell a lifetime subscription. Okay. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
We spoke
So
about that
instead
example
of
a couple of weeks
paying,
ago.
yeah, exactly. So instead of paying like €5 a month for Netflix for only 12 months, people could opt for the option Netflix lifetime subscription for $200, for example. And that means the customer in the end is actually paying more, even though he's not using the service anymore. And if he is, there is no additional cost, so there is no additional risk. But some people who are not fully into the mindset of subscribing to a service, but who want to use the service and still have this, I want to own it and not be charged on a regular basis, they would opt for such offerings. Okay.
May I ask you something about
Yeah,
that?
sure.
Yes. So from the value, customer value, you have the money, and they kind of stay, but they're not active, possibly in
Yes.
this case. So if you look at it from a revenue perspective, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
But in really adding value of staying relevant in your market, I would say it's kind of risky to be kind of, thinking to be smart this way, but at the same time, because you probably will lose attention of these accounts because you don't have to spend time on it anymore because they have paid already. So you don't have to think about how you can upgrade their experience or things like that. So in terms of maybe company culture, there could be a risk.
Yes,
of taking it for granted, something like that.
Yes, I agree, and I think it was maybe a bit unfortunate that we just talk about a dry number metric in the beginning to kick it off, because as we have known each other for years, we do have the same thoughts when it comes to company culture and engaged customers and not passive customers who've just paid the money, so we don't care about them anymore. That's wrong. We do care about the customers. We care about the culture and the relationship. That's why just employing this trick, as I called it, because it has this kind of a negative notion. I agree with you. I think additionally, it's necessary to add other means of creating a better customer stickiness, adding more value, and naturally, organically increasing the customer lifetime value so they don't jump ship in the first place. And for those less active customers, we do have different kinds of means. And I know that Liesbeth, you and I, we've worked on Oracle, Eloqua, nurture flows in the past together and so on. There are ways to get the customer, even in an automated way, to get him back into a more engaged service consumption. And human interaction is also, of course, a good means. Like somebody who's not used the service, like we remind him through an automatic nurture flow like 4 times, and after that somebody calls him, get the personal part back into the relationship. So what I'm trying to say is, don't just please look at the metric. You are completely right. Let's look at the cultural and interpersonal aspects of it, the actual relationship to a human being, which is kind of tough to actually keep up when you're a subscription only business. You've never seen your customer. They're just all an anonymous crowd, and metrics like I've never talked to anybody from Netflix. Well, but this is not true. Not as a customer, but as a friend. I know the lady who's running Netflix's network. Okay, she's a really smart girl. I really like her. But the regular customer probably has never talked to anybody from Netflix. Okay, that means when we try to get the personal relationship onto an actual interpersonal level, we have to think of good ideas, so we don't have an anonymous crowd on one end that just delivers metrics, consumption metrics, and so on, and a company who does not have any people actually interacting with our customers. So if that is something that is a desired part of the company culture, I think that's a good challenge to solve. Yeah.
Yesterday, I had a conversation with a company in office supplies worldwide. Really a $1 billion company. Still, although we are digital, they are still able to have profitable for having the right profits, but at the same time they know they have to change because of relevancy. And we were talking about, but they own everything from the fabrics, from the production to the delivering the fleet to delivering it to the customers.
Yeah.
And so we talked about, when comes the time then when the strategy turns into spreadsheet management, because they have to probably the first step they're going to take to say goodbye to their fleet, because that's easy to outsource. But then we talked about the value of the deliverers, knowing the customers, drinking that cup of coffee, talking about them, it doesn't matter what. It is a person-to-person relationship as well. So it would be an easy thought in their case, in more kind of traditional business of, outsourcing your fleets. But at the same time, those are the people who are in contact with your customer. And that gave me a very different view on, not maybe different, but at least to give the thought from a whole different angle.
Yeah, you're right. If you are in the great position as a company to have a field organization that is in constant touch with the customers, making a decision to outsource this part will cost you dearly in the long run, I guess, because that's the worst sign the customer could ever see from you as a customer. The worst message he could get, as in, we take away the people who you talk to on a daily basis.
Exactly.
I think the smarter way to face this decision would be to reverse the discussion. What else could we have those people in the field do to increase customer satisfaction and to provide upselling potential for us as a supplier for this customer? Okay, I've met a guy who used to own a roofing company. He fixes roofs. Okay, and he was then getting into a new sales channel, a referral channel for himself by partnering with the guys who clean the chimneys. I don't know the exact English word. Sorry about that. The chimney cleaner. Okay, so he was given tips to know more about broken roofs. By the guys cleaning the chimneys. Okay, so that was just the start, and now he's actually gotten into the solar energy business, because while he's fixing the roof, it's rather easy to just install a photovoltaics power plant. Okay, and that means there is one person on the roof cleaning the chimney, but two follow-up businesses or business opportunities, at least, that could be discovered from that. Okay, and I think people will have a different view on the person cleaning the chimney if they suddenly involve them into a discussion about how dangerous a broken roof might be, or how profitable a solar energy might be. Okay,
I think that's a great secret.
Yes, and that's like you have those people in the field anyways, and they don't even have to be your people. I mean, he does not employ any of those guys cleaning the chimneys. He's just giving them a referral fee, okay? And that's a thing that I would propose to your customer, Liesbeth, to say, let's reverse the story. This is not about saving money. This is about increasing the customer satisfaction and at the same time detecting more upselling opportunities for the business.
Exactly. Then it turns it more or less from decreasing cost or towards investing more in people to essentially get more out of it. I like that example from both of you. Really great.
Yeah.
Cool. Ollie, I think you covered it already a little bit, I think earlier during the conversation, but a couple of weeks ago, right, we spoke also about different marketing agencies and their business models. So I gave you a call around that, right? So what is really the difference you see in value of a subscription model versus, like you said, it's almost like a hidden subscription model or a PS on a monthly basis, and why is it relevant for a customer to understand what is the difference between? Because you see, a lot of agencies popping up in the market, and they say for a monthly fee we deliver all these types of trading time for money kind of approach, right? So, what is the true difference between a subscription model and a hidden subscription model in your view, and why is that relevant?
Well, the answer can be rather short. A real subscription model gives the customer an outcome and delivers a certain value that brings you to the outcome. Okay, and that's kind of an all-included pricing and so on. But it's not hidden trading time for money. Okay, so looking at two different kinds of revenue streams or characteristics of revenue streams, you have trading time for money. In the IT world, we call it professional services. You rent out the people and you bill for the time. But that's not what the customer's actually paying for. At least for some parts, it's about doing the actual work. But in some parts, he's paying for the experience of that IT consultant, let's say, for instance, or that marketing strategist. We look at your agency and your strategist, for example. And if you have an actual subscription business, it's not like renting out the guy or the girl for time, and but actually the customer wanting a work done and the experience. What you can do is you can create a value and a leveraged value for your company by taking the experience and in some way packaging it to multiply it. Okay, work once, deliver multiple times, and there's loads of means to do that. You write a software, you write a book, you come up with any kind of product or intellectual property that is then consumable as a service that will repeatedly give the customer the value. Okay, so you're actually taking people's experience and productizing those. Okay, and then the product, the machine, the software, whatever, the systems, the processes you've built around that can be repeated over and over again. And that's a good start for a subscription model. And don't get me wrong, this whole conversation about do you create value this way or that way is not this is a good and this is a bad idea. I think we always need both. And when it comes to understanding and analyzing a problem, as in a consultative approach, advisory kind of approach, okay, I think it'll always be people, but they will increasingly use tools to improve that. Okay, like, does it make sense to when writing a customer quote after consulting with a customer to do all the manual work over and over again? No, you analyze the kinds of deals you have. You find you only have 7 different kinds of deals. You create templates for those from the experience of the good sales guy, for example. Okay, but that doesn't mean we're going to get rid of the salespeople. It just means they can work in a more efficient way. That means trading time for money is not always bad. It's always necessary. But if you only do that, you're people dependent and you're rather inefficient because you don't have any leverage when it comes to profitability in your business. Okay. So being smart and thinking about what is the stupid repetitive work, or taking this, collecting it like a knowledge database or whatever, can be rather simple. Set up a wiki, have the people write down their ideas in the wiki, open knowledge sharing, and then come up with a best proposal quoting template for your offers that has the experience of all your salespeople in it. That means you actually come up with something better by writing it down and combining people's knowledge. And that's a way to create value. And the next step, if you want to automate more, is you could take those templates, create a piece of software that is called a configurator, online config thing, like you're going to get your new company car and you're on BMW's website and you click around and configure the new car. That could be something that the salespeople leverage, okay? So they work more efficiently. Customer gets better value by getting a quote out to him in a faster way. And there are all platforms everywhere where you can rent such services. But it has to be the mindset about how do you work? Do you work in an efficient style or do you always just do stupid repetitive work? Okay. Yeah. And some people, what they did now is they just took something that is stupid repetitive work and package that as a kind of subscription, but it's actually not. They just force you to buy their time for money trade over and over again. So as a customer, you basically are forced to get into a kind of a subscription model, but it's not the collected experience that you get as value, as I put out in the example of the sales guys. But what you get is the experience of one person over and over again. So there is no increase in value for the customer, and there is no leverage on the financial side for the business. And that's the difference between a fake subscription model, which is trading time for money, or an actual subscription model. It both inflates in substance and value on both sides.
Yeah, nice. Thanks for sharing that, Ollie. Yeah.
But I'm thirsty from all the talking. You don't talk enough, and I talk too much. So
But by the way, Ollie, I see for me at the right side, probably your left side. What is there behind? I see kind of messy background, but I see one kind of empty area, and I see a bottle there. What is that?
Yeah, so thanks for rubbing it in. I know I'm a bit of a we intentionally decided not to blur the background today. But the bottle you've spotted is another surprise that I just wanted to pull out for you later on. It's a special beer. I like the taste of it, but the speciality of this brand is it's from a small village very close to where I live. And the brewery that makes this beer is the last brewery in Germany that is not privately owned. It means that the city of Spalt owns their own brewery, and they make very good beer, and they get by. They make profits. They still exist, and they positively impact the city's yearly budget. Let me put it that way. And all the other breweries have fallen victim to larger breweries, and the market consolidation is over. But they are the last ones, and they're profitable. So I don't think they'll go away, and I can recommend the beer.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so that's another beer.
But isn't that? Yeah, I know you really value culture.
Yes.
successful. So isn't that something like, part of your city culture of, keeping that part of, because the habitants really value having their own brewery.
Yes, it's a cultural thing. I guess it joins the citizens of this village together, something that makes them proud. And you've rubbed it in again with me. A good job, because it's not my town, it's the neighboring town. And my town actually made all the mistakes that you could make, because they sold the brewery to an investor who promised to reorganize everything and invest money and so on. And what they did is they just tore it down and built housing for the people. So there is no more brewery because our town sold it. So yes, that makes it even more valuable, because there are still independent breweries, at least from the big players.
Yeah, that's nice. They're really, I think, in the Netherlands, private breweries are really upcoming.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of new craft of,
yes, craft beer.
And
that's basically the story behind this beer, because it was a couple of college chaps. And oh, by the way, Manuel, our friend from ProAct, he used to have his own craft beer as well.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's a hip thing to have your own kind of beer. But those guys here at Schanzenbräu Nürnberg Advertising, they were hugely successful. So
nice.
Congratulations, you guys make good beer.
Nice. I can only say yes. So the next time we can travel again, I will be running up the hill until to the bar. Right, cool.
I will keep it to a Feldliner, by the way. For me, no beers, but Feldliner, a good one, will do as well.
Nice. All right, so it looks almost I have a hotline with you, Ollie, but I called you also a couple of weeks ago or so around some feedback on a business model, right? So and on revenue streams. We basically discussed there, businesses look at different kind of possible revenue streams, and they decide how they want to make money.
I think I know where you're going with this, because it's not just the value story. It's also about getting the customer in some ways emotionally attached to you, because he's getting a freemium service, a test subscription, or in the best case, if you have an honest content creation machine within your company, what you can do is you can share some of the knowledge upfront for free, like on platforms that we all know and probably use, like YouTube and so on. So it doesn't have to be like, oh, I want to be rich by becoming a YouTuber. It could just be, I really work with passion in my business. I switch on the camera when I do the work I do anyways, like me tinkering around with solar energy, for example, and then publishing it. And that will create a crowd of fans, of followers, that will be way more likely to opt into any kind of services that you will then offer down the road, okay? And it doesn't have to be like, oh, I want to sell advertising by having 1 million clicks on YouTube. There shouldn't be any like afterthoughts in this. It should be open, honest content creation about what you're passionate about, and I think that this will positively impact the customer journey that you're having. Okay, what do I mean by that? I mean, we all know about the customer journey thing, where about 2/3 of the buying process are actually happening before the customer engages with a salesperson. Okay, so in those 2/3 of the way, he's basically consuming the information and the content you have created. And if the only kind of content is a bit of a manipulative, dishonest content, like buy our product, subscribe to our service, brutal front up marketing, it doesn't actually emotionally resonate with our customer. And we've talked a lot about ICP back when we were working in the same company, and we also now talk about the DNA ICP DNA model that you guys have developed in your agency. And who's the ideal customer? The customer is the one that gets two things from you, or is in two different relations with you. One of those relations is the value he is getting from you, your service, your product, your information, maybe, and meaning he's solving his problem. Okay.
Mhm.
The other thing is it's the emotional attachment. And I think the best way for now, I mean, I'm open to learning, is to actually share your passion as a company, to have a just a cause, a goal that resonates with a customer. Okay.
Mhm.
If you have that, you have both. You solved his problem and thus created value for him. And on the other hand, you have the emotional attachment. And that's basically parts of the recipe of getting to an ICP customer. Okay.
Yeah, I think the shared belief or the judge cause, right?
Yeah.
That's super vital. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that is what keeps well, where DNA parts comes, where
Mhm.
culture and values meet, and
Yeah,
hiring goal.
that means I think your customers might approach you and ask, uh, uh, what can I do to find an ICP? Who is the ICP? And so on. And you have many consultative offerings around that, and blueprints and processes and so on. But I think part of the answer, and that's the soft part that people need to understand, is those ICP customers in some ways will find you if they find something you've published which resonates. Okay.
I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. It's all about, I think, content, knowledge sharing, adding value instead of instantly
Mm-hmm.
to get something back from it. But
Mm-hmm.
also where I believe in, and I'm really curious how your view is on that. You know, everyone talks about your return on investment. And
Mm-hmm.
today I heard in a very interesting one, and it was about return on alignment. Because what I always say is, you can only be successful externally if
Mm-hmm.
you are a strong commercial team, or as a whole, as a company, internally. So the internal success will pay out externally. Because if you all have the same beliefs, how
Mm-hmm.
you think about, saying everyone is in sales. It's not about sales specifically, but saying everyone is in sales and it's just something nice on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have any value. If we say, we want every employee to deliver value to the customer, it doesn't matter if you're the receptionist
Yep.
or in marketing or an engineer, you want to create that wow effect every day, every time, over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
That is, so how do you see that value? So if you look at the ICP, the ideal customer profile, and
Mm-hmm.
we were not talking about the demographics and geographics, of course,
Mm-hmm.
those need to be in as well. But if you look at more the soft side, the culture match, things like that,
Yeah.
and then combined with your company culture of, instead of, for example, marketing and sales in silos, and
Mm-hmm.
the ultimate stage of a sales and marketing
Mm-hmm.
integration, do you believe that there is a return when you invest in that as a CEO?
Yes, of course. There's this magic word which you switched for investment. You're not saying it's a return on investment. You're saying it's a return on alignment. And I would like to add that there are two different kinds of alignment that you should look at when you consult with your customer about reorganizing the structure of the company, but also changing the mindset of the employees. I mean, putting everyone in the company into the same org chart under the same hierarchy and just call it one commercial team doesn't do the trick. Okay, it might be a step in the right direction, but it's about the mindset change. Okay, so that's the internal part of the alignment you were looking for to get a return on. The other kind of alignment that I'm looking at is the alignment with your ideal customer, having this emotional attachment, getting into the trusted advisor role and so on. Okay, and if you actually solve the first problem of getting alignment within your organization, mainly on the mindset side, it's not like blaming between marketing and sales. We've all seen that happen, huh? We've worked in different places before in our life. It's salespeople complaining the leads are not good, and the marketing people complaining about salespeople not following up on those leads, and we're going back in circles. That's the opposite of what you were talking about. Okay, this is the non-alignment. This is the corporate bullshit we see all over the place on a regular basis. So getting those people together and actually them pulling the same strings, working in the same direction. If you get that kind of alignment, you will automatically see an improvement on the alignment when it comes to the outside world, to the customer. And in the best case, the customer is a part of your commercial team. Okay, and in some ways back then, a few years ago, when I was still running Teamix, we did have some of those customers, exactly those that you were talking about. They were 100% aligned. We were actual friends. We didn't look at them as customers anymore. We trusted each other. We helped each other out. We took a hit for the team together. They sometimes even got to visit internal company events because they were part of the company. Okay,
so they joined those barbecues as well.
Yes, so we did have regular barbecues, but we don't have any more because of the lockdown. But I think we're getting back to that as soon as we're getting some relief on those restrictions. Yeah, yeah. But the funny thing that came out of this is actually an offering that we created because a customer demanded it from us. Okay. So, a quick story. The customer had the problem of some cost savings on his side and so on, and they didn't have enough people, and people weren't allowed to go on summer holidays anymore, because the ops part of their IT department needed to keep the lights on, so they needed to have people on site, people on call, and so on. And not everybody was allowed to go on holiday anymore. So the guys consulted with us and said, hey, "Can you help us make this work?" And now we have an offering which is basically a holiday stand-in as a service. So people can actually opt for renting somebody from us or having our managed service delivery desk run their operations, not in a lengthy contract, but just as an interim to fill a gap. And I don't think, if you don't have a relation of trust, it would be rather complicated to come up with a contractual scenario that covers all risks, blah, blah, blah. This thing would go down the drain. And we're not making a lot of money off of this, but we're actually getting better customer alignment because some of our people work inside the customer's team. So we're trading places here. Okay, and that's the ICP in perfection. Okay, that's why I wanted to tell a story.
It's a really beautiful example.
Yeah.
In this whole digital world, this subscription world we are living in, at one hand, you have the relationship building, specifically the customers where you want to be, or the other way around, what you said, the customers who really choose for you, because there's more to it than only delivering a product. But at the same time, paying that attention in a personal relationship way is very valuable. And I think that's, when you miss out on that, you are more transactional, and then you will lose your customers. So at the end, you will lose your relevancy. But at the same time, if you look at the digital part, the role that AI is bringing us, machine learning, how can we benefit, or how can we balance those two things in customer relationships, and also the benefits, but also the risks here?
Yes, to basically to rephrase your question in a bit of a more brutal and direct way, would be to ask, will salespeople go away and will be replaced by machine learning? Okay, or is it possible in a digital-only world to keep up an actual personal relationship with a customer and so on?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think that the whole new field, the new area of data analytics, prediction, AI, whatnot, anything that can be analyzed or predicted by a machine, that this will worsen the personal relationship between a seller and a buyer. Okay, I think we should look at those technologies just as tools. You can always use a tool to do good, or you can you can abuse it. Okay, you can cut your food with a knife, or you could kill somebody. Okay, but we're not saying knives are bad. Generally, okay, and the same thing applies to AI, machine learning, and so on. So the people will always be there, and there will always be a people relationship. But if we see that change, that technological change, the improvement, what mankind has learned around data analytics and predictions, is that we can use this tool to actually improve the customer relationship, meaning the tool might pick up on something that the salesperson hasn't even learned. Okay, or the tool might see patterns in the customer's data, in his digital footprint, that no human could ever predict with such accuracy. And if we don't use this to replace humans, but we use it to support humans, to make better decisions, to make better proposals, then I think it can strengthen the customer relationship. Okay, so it can be used as a positive. And if you look at things that can go wrong, there is a nice story that I've heard about. It's about a teenage girl that was pregnant, and she was afraid to tell her parents. When the parents learned about it, because she got sent a sample pack of diapers from Amazon, because Amazon Analytics picked up her search requests, her browsing history through all those cookie tracking stuff and whatnot, And so Amazon predicted that she's going to need diapers. And her parents opened the package. So that is when something obviously, even though Amazon might have had good intentions of increasing its revenue, it went wrong on a personal level. So it can be good, and I guess technology can be bad.
Yeah. So actually, the ideal world would be use AI to from an intelligence point of view, but be careful how you use it in your person to person or business to person contacts, because you can get things wrong, or you need to validate first before you use data such as what you're mentioning.
Yes, it just depends on the use case. Let's bring up a very simple use case that anybody half-witted in the technology field could probably implement in less than a week. You have a nice pre-made cloud services that you can rent from your public cloud provider of choice that helps you to detect patterns within text. Okay, so let's take the service which detects patterns in text. And you can create value add for your company rather easily. Let's say you have the ticketing system. You have this info@companyname.com email address, the general inbox where everybody sends everything who doesn't have a personal email yet. Okay, so you get invoices, you get requests for orders, support, complaints, whatnot. So there is like 10 or 20 different categories of different kinds of emails that you would get on the same address. So what are you going to do? Are you going to employ a person to triage those emails and forward them to the correct person? Or do you use this 1 cent per email service from Amazon to determine what kind of email is it? Is it a request or is it a complaint? And what they do is they augment their answer. They don't just tell you what kind of category this is. They also tell you what kind of sentiments in this email you find in this email. Okay, like the customer is angry, the customer is eager, and so on. And that's more than 10 years old technology. Okay, but that's a good example of where you can make a difference quickly, and you actually create a certain value for the customer because the turnaround time for his response will be lower. The machine makes this decision within the blink of an eye, and we don't have to wait for the front desk lady to before going home at 5 to sort those emails and forward them to the responsible people. Okay. So it'll be better for the customer, and there will be cost savings on the company side. So, and we could do that. That was an example where you improve customer service outside of sales, actually. Okay? By using
isn't that the perfect example, what you're now mentioning about the value exchange? Because what you said, it's in the benefit of the company, it's in benefit of the customer.
Yeah.
So you have, everyone is happy in this way of working smart.
Mm-hmm.
So we always say work instead of work hard, play hard, but work smart, play hard. So this is the great example of adding that value, because you will get what you said. You get your answer in a wink. Mm-hmm. And that's what you want. You don't want to wait because it has your attention now, not tomorrow. If I look at myself, when I have a complaint or a question, I really love those robots, and the robots instantly understand. Doesn't matter what I type, how long my sentence is. The robot understands my question, and in a way, they connect me to an operator because they think it's not a standard answer to give you. And it really makes me happy.
Yeah. The chatbots, for example. You're right about those. So that's maybe to pick up on an older question where Jeroen asked in the beginning about how to create a value stream. And then we came to the question, how do we stop just trading time for money? So an idea around this one would be to actually keep doing what you're doing. You keep trading time for money, but you change your mindset towards a more long-term positive outcome, which is creating value for the customer. So what do? You have a field organization of consultants, of specialists, analysts, whatever, and they do the human work, the intelligence work, creative work that machines might not be able to do, and take what they have learned and the answers they're giving over and over, and just write those down, put those into a knowledge base. So you have value creation on several levels here, just by keeping doing what you're doing, but then holding on for a moment and writing it down in a shared place. Other people will learn from your experience, and those are your colleagues first. Okay, so the organization itself gets better. It's like knowledge management. Okay, This is nothing new. I'm just saying it's a good use of technology that will create value on both sides, because the customer And we all work that way. We don't know something, we Google it. We don't know about the correct spelling of some kind of programming language. We Google it, and so on. So it's always Wikipedia, Google, and we take advantage of the collected knowledge and experience of everybody else. But many companies don't work like that yet. It's like, I'm the smartest guy. I get to keep my knowledge. The customer pays for it. The company needs me. I'm unreplaceable, and so on. But that's a bad mindset. It just doesn't help to grow everyone. Okay.
No, it's about educating others, right? That's
and
the king
so on.
thing.
And if you have this knowledge sharing mindset within your company, and people actually write it down and get better and help each other to step up, challenge each other, and support each other, then at one point in time, you're basically in a situation where you could share this knowledge rather openly with your customers. Sell them a subscription to let them access your knowledge base, for instance, which will free up your internal resources, which will create a value stream not only for you, but the instant access of the entirety of the collected knowledge of your consultants. Okay, so that's basically what I was trying to convey when we had those conversations. You don't have to change what you're doing. You maybe just change your mindset to create a long-term value. And the value you usually create for yourself can be turned into a customer value as well.
This is funny what you're saying, because actually, if you think about value exchange, you start about thinking about your customers or about the market. And actually what you're saying right now is saying, start building your value exchange internally. And then it will bring the value to your customers as well, if you do it the right way.
It could happen this way. I'm not just saying I'm always right and this is the only way. It was just a rather easy example where you don't actually have to change much in your company. Okay. No. But you will then create a long-term value without.
Yeah, I really like that example, Ollie.
Time, yeah.
Really like that. So, I think for me that would perfectly be a perfect ending of this podcast. To wrap it up. And first of all, I think from my end, Ollie, thank you very much for being our guest, our amazing guest here. So
thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think we have been sharing good secrets around customer lifetime value, real life stories. We had good fun, great drinks.
Yeah.
I think the end part was what really intrigued me was that customer lifetime value, obviously, right? It's in the word, right? It's all about adding value. But I think where you mentioned that it's all about your people also, right, in the beginning. And I think in line with our belief, right, that's what it's people in the heart, value from the start. But now also looking at it from an even more perspective, which is also make sure that an internal value exchange between your people is also set up. That for me, that's a real intrigued and a very new, insightful thing that came to the forefront. So to wrap it up, I would say, yes, it is possible to get a 10 times higher CLV, to make that a reality. It's not just a dream. But make sure that you make the right decisions, right, for your business, your market, but keep your people close and in the heart, and then magic can happen. So thanks a lot, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Serving Your Market as Kings or Queens. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort, and we'll catch you in the next episode.